which is
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay. Let me grab some coffee and I'll be right there with him. Okay. Okay. Hey, Butch, how are you?
Hi, Kanni. Nice to see you after a while. Yeah.
So, tell me what coffee you're drinking there.
Well, it's a brand from Italy, but the Kansas the coffee comes from the high altitudes of Central America. You know, I come from the Philippines, and we also have highlands in the Philippines, and it's very hard to find it here in the U.S. But there is what is called Benguet coffee. Benguet is in the highlands in the north.
That's a good, Butch. I was just looking the other day, in our region, for example, Vietnam, right? I mean, when I was serving in Vietnam, amazing coffee being grown there, and we loved the Vietnamese coffee. But you can see how climate change is just starting to decimate some of these coffee trees, the coffee plantations. Have you seen that also in the Philippines and other places?
Well, there are, the problem is that the extreme weather events have begun to hurt these countries, right? And coffee is a plant that you plant and you harvest it regularly. And if the extreme weather events devastate your crop, then you bear the cost of for both in the ability to produce for export, but also in the livelihoods of people who are living around that area.
From your thinking, where's the money going to come from, and what types of instruments are really can be effective, that can be bundled together to address some of these extreme weather events that's now part of our regular life cycle?
Our governments are already bearing a lot of the costs, but bearing them in different parts of their budget, right? And also households and companies are bearing the cost, but they are bearing the parts of their budget. So in a sense, you could say climate investments might mean short-term gain for long-term, short-term pain for long-term gain. But actually, another way to look at it is the kind of choice of what kind of pain, what kind of costs should be borne at this time, right? There's an estimate on China where 1.1 million premature deaths annually are happening because of ozone and fine particles that are caused by smokestacks. And it destroys 20 million tons of rice, wheat, maize, and soybeans, according to this estimate. Yeah.
Usually, market financing is not looking at long-term gains, right? They're trying to make a quick buck now, right? And trying to, so you see, even in the pandemic, the stock markets are doing well, right? And people are still suffering. They're getting ill. There's no food. So there is this conundrum, a contradiction, if you wish, of the fact that money is not chasing the good things that we know have to get done. So, how do you see past this?
When you undertake an investment, whether it is for climate reasons or not, you create debt, right? For example, if you build a house, you have to spend the money for the labor, for the materials immediately. That's right. And then you pay for the house long term, right? So that's the long term gain that you are referring to. But when debt is created, and the debt is created in an international system, as the UNEP study identifies, that is very dangerous for the poorer countries. We must build institutions where we can direct our own savings for our own use and direct them in a way that the international system does not do, right? Direct them towards long-term investments.
You pay now and then, you see the return. There are certain investments you have to make now, but you can also return the funds over time, as you said, like a mortgage, right? So you you build the asset and you're also building equity. But are we growing in the right way, right? So if we're just still growing in ways that pollute, that create ill health, right? So the incentive to shift, if you had to say to me, Kanni, of all the things that we can do, this is the one maybe regulation or policy or financing instrument that really can make a big difference. Where would you put your money?
One is we must build our domestic financial markets, but in a way that does not copy slavishly the way in which the Western markets are concerned, which is to in those markets they cater to the very rich, which want very liquid investments, right? Yes. Investments here that I can take out anytime, and it's part of my asset portfolio and that sort of thing, right? If you have good environmental projects, you should be able to in many of our own countries, right? You should be able to finance it locally. That's true. The second way, and you ask, I'm trying to say that there are two ways, right? We need to strengthen our own tax systems, because at the very end of the day, the government has to be able to assure the borrowing public that the borrowed funds, the debt that is created for climate investments, can be serviced, including reducing, for example, this is fiscal system, reducing our subsidies for fossil fuels, introducing carbon taxes. But in that particular case, the carbon tax is a strategy to change the price so that people's behaviors.
So just adding a carbon tax and then just letting that be is not enough. You got to get the price right and put that price on carbon, and with that tax, move it directly into poverty reducing efforts, into social protection, standing social protection efforts, and into renewables, right? So move it right in there so that you see the direct gain from that tax, and you will see behavior change also in investors and in industry, and then consumers as well. So I think that's a very powerful package. Thank you so much, Butch. Very good to talk to you this morning.
Nice to talk to you, Kanni.
Take care and enjoy your coffee, and let's hope that the price of coffee doesn't keep going up, but that we can produce it in a more sustainable way, both in your country, but also in the Andes and everywhere else. Take care. Bye-bye.